Great to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Doing good, man. Doing good, man. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's sunny. What complaints can you have when it's sunny, right? It
It's
makes you feel
cold.
great.
It's cold in New York. It's 40 something degrees. It's in April, on April 15th.
That's
Yeah,
wild. Yeah, my family's in
that's
Boston and they can't believe it either that, it's been this cold. Um,
it's crazy.
Crazy. Um, Really excited to have you on, Chris. I'd love to first dive in. Let's assume there's a part of the audience that is just getting to know you. I'm sure a lot of people already know you in the space across the board, but Um, just give us a little bit about your background, and then really talk. We'll focus our conversation on path today, but let's start with your background.
Yeah. I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama. So I ended up going to college, winning one over $1 million in scholarships to go to college. First generation, first in my family to go to college. Then went to end up going to Drexel, in Philadelphia. Lived in Philly for 7 years. Moved to LA for 4.5 years, and lived in DC for 4 years. So I've been around. But most of that was starting my first company, Scali. So we started in 2015. We launched it on Shark Tank, and we ended up getting a big deal with Damon John, Lori Grenier. Started this really big fight on the show. We got all these different accolades. We shot up to we got to 5 million users, became front page of the App Store, and all these other things. And I was able to scale the company for about 10 years. And the company was acquired by Sally Mae a year and a half ago. Yeah, and now I'm working on my new company path, but that's just a synopsis of kind of like what I've been doing.
I remember seeing you on Shark Tank. That's such a cool experience to kind of kick off this ed tech journey. Would love to hear any past lessons you learned from your first venture and now that you've taken to Path and are applying.
Well, I think that like running a company, doing it. I mean, when I was started Scali, I was 22, so I was in college, so I never had a job outside of school. So that was a unique journey and sort of learning to build a team, learning how to raise capital, and so there was definitely a learning curve in terms of like just understanding a lot of these different KPIs, understanding how to measure things, the business model. One of the first mistakes that I made, and even when I was on Shark Tank, is that the app was 99 cents when I started it. But a one-time fee. I thought, oh, we got to make it super affordable, but we still have to stay in the app. I had this like idealistic thing, and the biggest marketing moment of the company's history, which was Shark Tank, that was 99 cents. So I think, and what we ended up doing is moving to a freemium model that was a recurring subscription. After we kept getting all these emails from people saying, "Oh, I'm ready to cancel my subscription," and not because they like just said they had the product for a while, and we actually realized that most people actually thought they were paying us monthly anyway. And just without going into too many details, just knowing if you knew how much, oh my God, we were getting tens of thousands of users a month. If we were, and that was year one of the business, if we were had that like a reoccurring SaaS model back in 2015, it would just be so much better. So I would say understanding the right business model, and balancing altruism with impact with sound, just a strong business model. I think too, just a lot of lessons learned around when you get pressed. I would say when I look at Shark Tank, obviously it was a surreal moment, it was great, but I probably in hindsight would have waited a year, had more fun in the business. I think timing of these huge media moments could be super material. For example, if we waited a year, that would have had a right business model in place, right? So it would have just made more money. So I think it's really good to be strategic in your timing and when you are taking advantage of the opportunities. And those are kind of the biggest lessons I learned from just starting this. Whereas Path have the right business model from the start, using the right technologies, being really, really strategic when we do press, when we do things, to conscious about the business model, thinking about those things from the start, and all those things. Because with Scully's case, we had a great brand, a great product. We ended up getting 5 million users, hundreds of millions of dollars in scholarships raised. But I would say that the foundation with the business model had to pivot a few times before we got it right. So I think that, so starting Path, really thinking about what we're doing. Hey, I know how to build a brand, know how to build a great product, and really staying oriented that and marrying that with the right business model from the start. to be able to kind of scale. And it's been like we've already been profitable this year, right? Just based on that. And that's something that's been great.
Congratulations on everything, by the way. It's the business model. I mean, but that's the part that they don't tell you as an entrepreneur. Like it is so difficult to get that part right. The other stuff and the excitement and um, so kudos to you. So I would like to hear like what's the business model of Path, and then there are lots of prep options out there. What really makes Path stand out?
Yeah, so Path is a generative AI platform that we basically make test prep more affordable for college admissions tests like ACT, SAT, GMAT, EGRE, GMAT, MCAT, CompTIA, AP exams, PSAT, state-based exams, you name professional certifications, you name it. So rather than you going to Kaplan and Princeton Review and paying thousands of dollars, Path is only $9 a month. We're able to do that because we're able to use AI to generate unlimited practice for students and predictive scoring, whereas they have to manually do all this stuff, and also they're really only serving upper middle class market. I mean, obviously, that's they're not even. Whereas we're trying to really make that more affordable. So the goal is that we help these families save thousands of dollars on these exams that are, rather than by using AI to give them unlimited practice. Whereas you go to Magoosh, you get $500 just set up the ACT, you get 3 practice exams. Path, you get unlimited exams, you get unlimited practice questions. You have your AI tutor, and we predict what you're going to make on the test before you take the test. So, which also saves you money. We even have like CompTIA, like cybersecurity certification. So when you look at that, it's $400 just to take the test. So, and most people don't pass on the first time. So if you have to take it again, you're out $800. So we can give you enough practice and let you know whether you're gonna pass the exam before you take it. So I think the biggest thing is affordability. The second thing is we have everything on one subscription. So so you can study for all the different tests on one subscription. You have to buy each individual one. So that's something that's really big. And the fact that we have unlimited practice, where it's not saying here's 3 practice exams for $500, then you got to pay another $500 for that, right? And I think that we have this massive catalog of exams, even state-based exams. We have New York Regions. We can add the MCAS, which is like Boston's for like middle and high school students. So we can add exams that just other people do not have because we specifically made a model specifically around AI prep, and we ensure accuracy by cross like any answers that we generate for our users exam. We make sure we cross check it to make sure that the accuracy is there, because that's one big thing that when people ask, oh, why not Chat GPT, which is the platform, it's very different than that because all the different question types and essays and all the things, but we try to make sure that the content that we are giving out to our users is accurate, because that's obviously a big thing in the AI education space, is that it's what the students are saying is that accurate content.
It's interesting because you essentially give students peace of mind, right? If they're more prepared, you have to imagine they're a little less stressed now going into these tests, right? Because they were able to continue to take these preps over and over and over again. The AI component makes total sense. I would like to hear too. I want to keep talking about Path, but just talk me through why AI and education just go so hand in hand, even more broadly.
Yeah, because I mean, essentially the reason why. So you look at something like Path, the reason why like Kaplan, Princeton, these other big companies in the space, they had to manually create all those materials and practice because their whole question had to be manually done. They had to hire subject matter experts. AI do it instantly, so it costs us like nothing really, essentially, to produce the content. So, and I think the same thing in education. You need your ability to have a tutor or a teacher was constrained with that person's time, their availability, their patience, right? Where I think AI provides unlimited amount of time. You have you have no limit on patience. You have access to it 24/7, and you can get unlimited practice. So you can keep doing it over and over till you get it right. Now, oh, hey, students, here's 5 practice questions that you can take home. To learn calculus, where teachers give you homework, right? So when you look at students who are doing homework, they have this tutor that they can make sure that they're using all the time. You have, if they can't stay after school, which a lot of underserved students have to like take other jobs, so they can't stay for tutoring, or they just can't afford it, right? And I think, or tutoring has had this huge $100 per hour, so it's not been accessible to most. So I think AI democratizes education. I think it personalizes it because it can adapt and let you focus on what you are struggling with, not where it's a classroom style. We all follow the same curriculum, and you just have to keep up with the pace of everyone else, and you just won't do well. So I think that personalization, I think unlimited practice, and I think this not having the time constraints on when you have access to these tools, whereas with humans, you don't do that. I think what that means for teachers remains to be seen. I think a lot of people are wondering, like, well, can the AI teach the? Can we just put kids in front of a computer and the AI teach them through the curriculum? Because the AI can say teach his curriculum and say, okay, Chris, if Chris needs to master algebra two and whatever Pythagorean theorem, okay, he can't get past this module until he gets 20 of these questions right, right? But but if I'm a student, I can keep trying over and over and over and over until I get past that. So I think we're going to see a rise in homeschooling because now I think parents will feel more empowered to homeschool because they feel like they have tools. So I think we may see AI schools, AI centric schools being created. Whether they'll be approved, who knows? But like whereas I think students will be able to have 24/7 access to these AI tools where they'll still need to pass the curriculum and understand the material, but they won't be limited to the instruction of the classroom or the limited amount of practice they can get from a textbook or something like that.
Yeah, you said something in there I want to quickly highlight because you said if they're like allowed, if they're approved, right? Eh, I think if you went up to anyone on the street and you talked to them and you pitched them what these AI schools look like, most people would be like, "Wow, that sounds amazing." Like think back to your own like days in school. Like it's the same with me. If I had the ability to keep doing something over and over again, but like in also different formats, so that until I actually grasped it, or I just think of as you continue to look out the personalization that AI allows to adjust to learning styles, right? Like someone's more of a visual learner, let's give them some more graphics and stuff like that. Um, what do you think will be the biggest blocker in say that if it's allowed, if it's approved, holding AI schools kind of back?
I think civil unrest around teachers and education and the cognitive dissonance of boomers and Gen X just not willing to accept, that this technology can be better than humans. From a from a funding perspective, it would be transforming. We deploy billions of dollars into different schools, and it's all proven to not be effective. I think with AI, we can have a centralized data system to tell us how all the students are doing. It's held accountable. No one's getting a 4.0 GPA without it. It's just so many benefits. I mean, the benefits are endless, right? Like that's it. Like for example, like theoretically, past technology, we can predict what students are going to make on a PSAT before they take the test. So so again, so if students need to go back and learn something, that they can do that, right? So things like that. So I think there will be civil unrest, and I think there will be probably congress. There'll probably be some definitely loss because it's what's going to happen if you make one AI school that scales. What if
Oh
like
yeah.
so everyone we don't need to do that. So what if tens of thousands of students or hundred or a million students opt into an AI school versus going to the physical school? What does that do for all the real estate? What does that do for all the teacher salaries? What does that do for all the other things? I do think that they will need that human support, but I actually believe that humans will be supplementing the AI, not the AI supplementing the humans, and that sort of thing. And I think I don't know if the world, I think the boomers have to go away and the Gen X kind of have to go away before, because the Gen Z and millennials, they're going to be AI first, so it's going to be oh duh. But I think that the people that have to make those decisions, I don't think are dealing with a lot of cognitive dissonance of like having a tool that can do their job better and faster and more efficiently.
I think it as painful as it is for some people, right? That this, they're for certain teachers, you still have to look at. You can't just like say no to a technology because it's so like monumental in what it's going to do and like the impacts it'll have. Because like I just think of a world where, especially when you're talking about these like the Gen Zers, where like even if you can start to push the learning to their phone, like quick lessons, right? You know they're lacking in a certain area, they're struggling. Send them a couple questions every single day for that. Like it's just you couldn't do that the old way at all.
And you have a admin panel that you know what all your students are struggling with in real time because the AI student is connected to the system. So I'm a teacher. Actually, oh, let me know that Chris is struggling with this, or struggling with this, and you could actually customize what they're doing to the way they're doing it. So you can give them homework, and also if you give them homework, you know if they did it or not, because it's all on the computer. You know what they're struggling with. It's. I mean, man, there's no there's so many case studies where it's great. The only thing really that will just it's this idea of replacing humanity. But think about I think what's going to happen before the K through 12 is an AI college, and I think you're going to see that because colleges are probably where they can do that. And when you see the idea that that college costs can be reduced dramatically by just having that and scale, you're going to see a disruption in the market. Or when we move to just a skills based workforce to where I can learn how to code or learn different tools on virtual things, like you're going to see a lot of empty real estate on those campuses and things like that. So it's going to be really, it's going to be interesting. So I think colleges, should be. I think a lot of colleges, K through 12, is far more regulated because dealing with children and all that. So I think it's going to be a little bit different for we see,
For
that
college,
in
you can even go ahead and you can even push through some schools that aren't full. Then it really like that aren't fully even accredited. It's more of will the companies be okay if you got your degree from there, right? Like there are certain certifications that colleges can even go after where it's not the top necessarily the top standard, but if they're able to showcase to the outside world, you're right. I think college you'll probably see more AI schools at least in the short term.
yeah, I think it will reduce costs, but I think again, even for universities, there's going to be a huge amount of civil unrest there too, because then now they have to justify if a child isn't in my classroom, if they are on this real estate, what justifies $60,000 a year in tuition? Right? Then okay, then what happens to the to professors who've been there 20 years, like who's in the research, right? What happens to researchers at universities when AI can just do that? Like, so I think there still is that disruption, but I think and I hope that with the amount of money it saves and all that stuff, that people will adopt. But I really think it's the powers that be, the who are really going to be resistant of the technology, because it disrupts their lives and creates cognitive dissonance with how they work. And also, I think there's a defensive measure of like I spent 20, 10, whatever decades like creating this infrastructure or this pedigree or this degree. I have my PhD and all these other things, and I think that I think accepting that that doesn't matter right now is very, very different. And we're seeing that even in the workforce where the US has had for decades, since being at a time, a very tenured based workforce where like, oh, you're getting paid $250,000 a year just because you've been working here for 15 years, not because you're producing that amount of work, not because you're even working 4 hours a week. And now there's a machine that can automate 70% of what you were doing, and it's smarter than you. It can kind of do the thinking and analysis. What's justifying? So a lot of these people who are getting laid off from jobs are not finding jobs that are paying them the amount of money because 70% of their JD and skill set they know they can automate.
Hmm.
So it's fascinating to kind of see that happen.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a big shift across so many different areas. It's not just like education plays such a huge role in it, but it is going to have a domino effect across so many different space. Like you mentioned real estate a few times, it will have a huge impact on real estate. Before we wrap up here, Chris, I just wanted to quickly say, obviously, big fan of what you're doing and what you've built. What's next for Path that really excites you?
I think that I think what I described in education without going into spoiling too much is that I think that we're gonna have this massive catalog of any type of exam that you want, but we will be starting to build our own AI tutor. that supplements that as well, that will give students unlimited practice with anything that they want to still have that same model. So that's going to be really cool. So we really want to eventually, start with, I mean, because think about it. Think about all the data that you have. If you know what all these different students are struggling with, the different topics, you have exams that are based on federal approved curriculum. You have the nucleus of education of data there, right? So how do you take that and apply that to other forms of education, not just exam prep, but how do you apply that, to teaching and all this other stuff, and then ultimately making all these things. My goal is to disrupt the tutoring market, not just the test prep market. I want to make these services that were only available to, hey, if you can afford $100 an hour, available to millions of students who can afford it, and it's good business because that's actually a bigger market than than just only serving private school students who can afford to pay you $7,000 for a test prep package, right? So I think it's a big market, it's good business, and I think I'm excited, for Path to be able to do that. But right now, I really think there's a lot of um, opportunity in this test prep space because the biggest thing was that we have seen an uptick in demand is that the new administration sent out a letter to all of the colleges saying that test optional policies are DEI. So a lot of the colleges are now planning to reinstate their ACT and ACT requirements to offset that. So seeing the demand there, that's kind of where we want to build, starting with test prep, but really building out this larger AI education platform eventually that really takes what students need to learn and find different ways to do that by giving them unlimited practice and making sure they know because the data shows that the reason the students who do the best on these exams are literally because they have the most they take the most practice and do the most practice. Not even it's actually their GPA and what they learn in the classroom isn't as important as being able to actually practice and study for the test. So that's it. How we doing?
I love it. We'll
Cool.
continue to stay in touch and follow along with your journey. But really appreciate having you come on, and hopefully we can do this again in the future. But thanks for being a
Awesome,
guest.
man. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. All right.